Well, hello, family. Very happy to be back on the early edge. Thanks for joining us today. If you want the update, we are Timmy Smith days away from NFL season, otherwise known as Merton Hanks days away, or another guy that you might know, Jerome Bettis days away. And we've got the Hall of Fame game coming up soon. We've got a big show for you today with Olympic picks, MLB picks. I've got a golf pick, which is also kind of an Olympic pick. Matt, Japan, Bradley, CID, Dan Cummins in the chat. Thank you for being in here. Please hit the like button, and you might like our recap screen. Let's take a look at how the crew did yesterday. The Maestro not only hosting, but he's hitting picks as well. And I'm pretty sure he's in the chat as well. So ask him anything you want. Buckets with some live plays, SportsLine plays hit 7-3 overall. Nothing to complain about. And we already have picks in the chat for today, some of which you might like from our experts too, because some of you, Brandon Silva, I see you, you might be on something that one of us like as well. Let's bring in the stars of the show on this Wednesday on the early edge. We've got Martin Green, we've got Prop Stars, and we've got Amags. Amags, you're wearing the Dodgers cap. I want to go to you first because, and I know we talked trade deadline stuff yesterday, or you all talked about that yesterday. Let's talk about, now that it's come and gone, your reaction, whether it be a Yankees reaction, because I know you're a Yankees fan, you're wearing a Dodgers hat, any reaction whatsoever to this day coming and going now?
Yeah, it was pretty disappointing as a Yankees fan. Brian Cashman, it was his time to shine, and he did absolutely nothing, in my opinion. Yes, the Jazz Chisholm trade was very nice, but they certainly needed more than that, either an arm, an extra bat, kind of just a bit of a lackluster deadline for them. So it doesn't really make me confident at all that Juan Soto would want to stick around after this season. So that's really tough. And I'm wearing the Dodgers hat because it correlates with one of my plays for today. That really hurt when they took Jack Flaherty from us. So I thought he was going to be a Yankee. Did not turn out that way. A lot of trades, though. The Marlins especially were involved in a ton. So
that's right. What is your reaction to the news that Flaherty had some medical concerns and that's why? I mean, listen, would you have taken that risk if you're Brian Cashman?
100%. So the last few weeks to like month or so, a little more than that, we've been betting on Jack Flaherty. So I've kind of dove into some of the medical stuff with him. It's an injury that he's had previously. He kind of he tends to get the shots and it works for him. He'll be fine, tends to kind of just, I guess I would say, like, he just deals with it. It's not like it really bothers him too much. He just does the medical treatment, does what they tell him to do. And he goes with it. I think he'll be perfectly fine in LA, to be honest.
All right. CLE fan says, good morning, early edge fam. Thanks for saying that, CLE. Hit the like button if you could. Martin Green, you're looking very Christmassy today with your colors. Where are we headed? We'll get to your picks in a second, but where are we headed? Are we going to MLS? Where are we going today in soccer?
Thank you very much, Sia. This is the new Arsenal away jersey. It's a renowned African designer in London, I'm told, worked on it. But it does look very Christmassy, feeling festive, even though it's the hottest day of the year over here in sunny London. But we're heading to North America for today's picks, and kind of a USA-Mexico mashup with the Leagues Cup, which features the best teams from the MLS and Liga MX.
I love that. And I'm supposed to call it kit. In soccer, we call them kits, not jerseys. Can you correct, like Bradley corrected me? Is the jersey the kit, or is a kit a jersey and something else, Martin Green?
We normally refer to the entire assemblage as the kit, whereas this is just the shirt. This is more called a shirt. We don't really say jersey over here.
I didn't think I was getting the word assemblage out of that. Prop Stars, when we talk NFL tomorrow and over the next 36 days into the NFL season, that word won't be coming across our eyes or our ears. But I will say we're doing a fantasy draft with RJ White and the entire SportsLine crew. He's orchestrating it. You just put in a pick real quick. We'll get to our picks in just 1 second. You're thinking the Titans. I'm just leaking something from our draft. Just real quick, you're thinking the Titans might be a little bit better than people expect, correct?
That and a combination of, I feel that division is ripe for the taking, and certainly the Titans have proven to be stalwarts in that division. So I think they're capable of winning 8 or 9 games. I think they have the personnel. I actually think they had an underrated offseason and draft. And I just don't feel like any of the other teams. While I do like the Colts a lot, and I think they provide or offer some value potentially, I'm just not very afraid of that Titans schedule. And I think, they've got a chance to win 8 or 9 games, as do all the other teams in that division. It's wide open.
Yeah, in this futures draft, which will be published and out for everybody's consumption, by the way. And it's a really cool thing that RJ White puts together. He also has the team-by-team previews on SportsLine, but I actually have the Colts to win that division. I believe at plus 310 is where I got it when we did the draft. All right, let's finally get to some picks. Big Cheesy, I see in here. Japan, I see in here. He says Titans plus 1,000 to win the division. I am in on it for a full unit play, says Japan. Very interesting. Japan's not afraid to be contrarian. Martin Green, you've got a couple soccer picks for us. Let's start with the official picks right now.
Absolutely, Sia. So I am starting with LA Galaxy. They are playing San Jose Earthquakes in a California derby. The teams meet at PayPal Park this evening, and I do think that LA Galaxy should be too strong for the Earthquakes. They're top of the Western Conference table after winning 9 of their last 12 games. I think they look capable of winning a trophy this year. They've played San Jose Earthquakes 4 times in the past year, and they've won all 4 of those games. 3 of them were on the road at PayPal Park, including a 3-0 away win in June. So they really should have a psychological advantage over the Earthquakes here. And odds of plus 100 just look really attractive. They've got a really good chance of winning this game, and a great set of odds. If you do want to play it a bit more cautiously, you could go for LA Galaxy draw no bet, potentially parlay it with Tigres UANL to beat Puebla. That's a bet I placed earlier, but for my official pick, just going for a straight moneyline win for LA Galaxy. There's lots of League Cup games taking place today and tomorrow, and looking ahead to the tomorrow slate, I think that Toluca in Mexico should pick up a home win against Chicago Fire. They've made a really strong start to the Liga MX season, winning both of their home games so far. Meanwhile, Chicago Fire have lost 7 out of 13 away games so far this season. They began their Leagues Cup campaign with a 2-1 away defeat to Sporting KC in Kansas City just recently. Traveling to Mexico is a bit of a daunting prospect for them. I really think the home team should get the job done. And it just looks like another great set of odds at minus 110. So that's my play for tomorrow.
All right, we've got Toluca tomorrow. Did I pronounce that right? Is it Toluca, Martin Green?
I believe so. That's how I pronounce it. But there may be some Mexican viewers that may have a better grasp on that than me.
Fair enough. And we've got the LA Galaxy as well. The LA Galaxy game, of course, is today. Martin Green, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, taking place in California this evening.
All right, absolutely love it. So we got a pick from Martin Green for today and tomorrow. And we've got a pick from SportsLine, which, by the way, went 2-0 yesterday. At 2:30 today, we go to swimming, and we go to, I hope I'm getting this pronunciation right, Christoph Milak to win the men's 200-meter butterfly at minus 105. Again, that's Christoph Milak to win the men's 200-meter butterfly at minus 105. That's 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to take that bet or any of Martin's bets or any of the bets you're about to hear from Proppy, Amags, or myself, go to BetMGM. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10, and you'll receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses with bonus code EDGE. That's bonus code EDGE, E-D-G-E. I got to tell you, the promos from BetMGM are really, really good. It's not just that one, which if you haven't taken advantage of, you know, we talk about that particular promo a lot, but I can tell you when I hit the live play, which I tweeted out for everybody after round 1, when I hit the live play on Jonathan Vegas, I know myself and a lot of you got him at 75-1 because there was a boost in there from BetMGM. So if you bet BetMGM, you would have kicked that 60-1, which of course won to 75-1. And BetMGM has that stuff all the time across all the sports. Speaking of sports, let's get to some more picks right after this message from our partners. By the way, I should mention that Bradley Jacobs loved the MLS pick from Martin Green. And Big Cheesy says Taj Bradley to record the win at plus 105. Well, we'll be talking some Taj Bradley courtesy of Amags in just a second. But before we get there, prop stars, this guy Brian Bayo is starting to prove himself a little bit, correct?
Correct, Sia. I'm going to back him to go over 15.5 outs. That's at least 5 1/3 inning today against the Seattle Mariners at home at Fenway Park. Bayo's had a bit of a down season after last year. Really flashed last season. Had some great stretches. Looked like he'd become a top-end starter for Boston's rotation. Hasn't been the case this year, but it hasn't been all bad. If we look at some of the underlying metrics, suggests that he's actually a positive regression candidate. He's performed a bit better than his raw statistics may indicate. He's also gone over this particular line of 15.5 outs in 5 of his previous 6 outings, facing a Mariners lineup that's without Julio Rodriguez, Crawford as well. 3 starters, I believe they're down, so they rank 26th in OPS from a matchup standpoint. I think it's a pretty good one. So let's back Brian Bayo to go over 15.5 outs, getting plus money as well. And shout out to, I believe, Brandon Silva in the chat, who also mentioned this play too.
That's right. I believe it was Brandon Silva. Good looking out. I absolutely love when the chat has plays even before the show starts, which a lot of you are in here even like 5 minutes before the show starts discussing your plays. I love that, but I love it even more when I look at the show sheet, if you will, and the pick sheet, and I see that there's correlation there because you all in the chat are very, very sharp. Just like I think I'm pretty sharp most of the time in golf. So let's go to PGA PGA Tour players, but we're actually going to the Olympics, right? This thing starts in the morning, like really early in the morning. It's almost like we've got the Open Championship type setup, right? So when we're on Thursday morning on this show tomorrow, like a lot of these matchups will have already concluded. But I'm not going with a round 1 matchup. There were a couple I was leaning toward. For example, the Shane Lowry 3-ball. He's plus 125 in his 3-ball, and it's the same 3-ball across all the books. I kind of like that, but I didn't like it enough to make it an official play. So if you want a round 1 play, that round 1 3-ball with Shane Lowry, I like. I'm going with a tournament matchup, though. I'm going with Colin Morikawa, who a lot of people, including I know Mike McClure, like Colin Morikawa in this Olympic setup quite a bit. I know a lot of smart people on him. I like him too. I think he sets up really well for this course. And as much as I like Ludwig Oberg, his gameplay over the last, 4 or 5 tournaments, while good, it hasn't been the same as Colin Morikawa. And Colin Morikawa sets up for this course a lot better. He's got the putter rolling. He's got really good Olympic experience as well with his last time out, whereas Ludwig doesn't really have that experience, which I do think factors in a little bit. Either way, I think minus 130 is a very fair number. Both of these guys are hyper talented. But again, from a course fit standpoint, I think Colin Morikawa is the guy here. And so I'm taking him a tournament matchup. Again, all 4 rounds. This is a no-cut event, by the way. Colin Morikawa minus 130 over Ludwig. All right, that's a golf pick. If you want to ask me golf questions, I will mention, I was going to say for the record there, but see, I'm scaling it back. I haven't said it once except for that just one time right there. I will tweet out a couple of first-round leaders. It's a shortened field, right? So I'm not going to have like 5 first-round leaders, but I'll tweet out later when I get some time to look at first-round leaders and weather and things of that nature, some first-round leader plays for everybody. If anybody's interested in that, obviously I've been pretty hot in that department. But Amags, you're hot in the MLB department pretty much all the time. Not 100% of the time, but yeah, you're hotter than most, and we've got the SportsLine record to prove it. You've got a couple of plays, at least one of which I know the chat really likes. So let's get started with our guy, Taj Bradley.
All right, let's do it, Sia. And yeah, Taj Bradley is kind of the golden boy here in the chat. Just see a lot of Taj Bradley love, but I think for a good reason today. Just sets up, even on paper, really just when you look at it face value, it sets up as a good spot. But when you dive in a little bit deeper, I think it sets up as a good spot for the strikeouts here. When you look at Bradley this year, 10 of 14 starts, at least 6 strikeouts, and you have to get over the 6.5 here. But against this Marlins lineup, look, it's been retooled. You had a ton of prospects come in. Quite a few starters go out. You now have 4, at minimum, 4 guys in this lineup right now that are dealing with around like 150 or less at bats this year. So they're really just kind of guys that are still trying to get their feet wet in MLB. Certainly some younger guys that have been prospects for them. Of course, you still have some guys in the middle of the order like Jake Berger last night. He did some damage. So I think there's always a little bit of that risk, but they don't walk a ton. Bradley, when he gets himself in trouble, sometimes walks guys. And he'll have the advantage of Mike Estabrook behind the plate, who is one of the best pitcher umpires in MLB. So I'm going to back Bradley here for over 6.5 strikeouts. A pretty good number. I know MGM had it minus 105 when we were kind of getting ready to do the show. I think around minus 120 now. I'd still play it there. So I'm going to take the over 6.5 on Bradley here. I think he has a good start. And I do like to record a win as well. They threw that in the chat. Plus odds. Totally okay with that. If you want to go money line and strikeouts to bring that money line down, it's a spot to do that as well. Second, as you mentioned, we kind of been hot. We're going to a quick little player prop here. Not going to dive too much into this one. I'm just not going to overthink it. You're getting Shohei Ohtani at plus money for only 1.5 hit run RBI. I get that it's against Dylan Cease, but he's coming off that huge no-hitter. I think it certainly sets up as a letdown spot. And even though the Dodgers lineup has been a little bit in flux with Freeman out and whatnot going on with his family, I think when you saw last night some of that damage coming from the bottom of the lineup, that type of thing could continue again here. So at the plus 100 price, I'm just not going to overthink it, and I'm going to play him.
All right. So Shohei Ohtani over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, and Taj Bradley over 6.5 Ks. Hey, Mags, real quick, some people might be interested. I mean, I shouldn't say some people. I'm kind of interested in Tampa, and I want to get your take here because I'll be perfectly blunt. I haven't studied the baseball slate as much as I would have liked to today. But you got Taj Bradley on the mound at home, and the minus 1.5, the run line is like minus 115. Any thoughts there? I mean, it's only a 7.5 run total there. So, maybe it's not super appealing, but this does seem like a spot with the Marlins being, traders at the trade deadline, maybe to target them. What are your thoughts there?
So it definitely, I've already seen some people in the chat say minus 1.5. What are they thinking on the first 5? I think it definitely sets up as a spot where you could play that. My only thought is like the Rays were also kind of sellers a little bit too, right? And so there was certainly some guys that got sent away in Randy Arozarena, but also some other pieces that maybe they haven't played a ton or they have, but I just don't personally think they're all that good are still in this lineup. So when I saw that like minus 250 almost on the money line, personally, I felt like that was a little bit too much, that you're kind of seeing the same thing with the run line. Maybe if you think it's, if it's something you want to play, go ahead. I'm not going to have an official pick on it, but if you just had to ask me, point blank, do they win by 2 runs? Probably.
Yeah, and I'm actually just noticing the chat. Ray Brown says, does that mean Rays run line also? And then, of course, there was Joseph Rackett says Rays minus 1.5. So it's certainly a popular play. Brandon Silva says, I got to bounce for work. Good luck today, y'all. Let's cash these tickets. I do want to mention David Taki says, Sia, put your first round leaders on SportsLine. Now, keep in mind, I do put them on SportsLine when I'm doing my article. And that's usually right after the early wedge. We didn't have an early wedge episode today. And frankly, with football season approaching, there might be less golf content and more NFL content from me in the article form or, on SportsLine. I do want to mention, though, because of that, I might bring first round leaders to the early edge. So you can set something to look forward to. There's kind of an off season in golf. There's a fall swing, but either way, we'll try to incorporate some of that on the early edge if some of the golf content fades while football season, fades for me, I should say, while football season approaches. So just one thing to keep in mind there. Matt says Rooker has been an ATM for us, Mags. We didn't have Rooker traded at the trade deadline, correct?
We did not have Rooker traded at the trade deadline. I think he certainly wanted to be traded by his performance, right? But yeah, he's been an absolute ATM. I think the price on him was good again today. But I was looking at it, Logan Webb, almost 300 average allowed against right-handed batters. So I'd have no problem playing it again today.
All right. Martin Green, have we covered everything in soccer? Did you see any soccer picks in the chat that we needed to cover before we get to the recap screen?
There's been a few of our wonderful viewers asking about the Olympic men's soccer game between the US, MNT and Morocco. Could be a tight game because Morocco were very strong in the group stage, but a few BTTS picks, both teams to score. And I like the look of that. Morocco have been very impressive, but the USA really should score in that game because they've brought a lot of firepower to this tournament. And yeah, that looks good to me. USA.
All right. I absolutely love it. And then let's see, before we get to the recap screen, I got to mention Kevin McKenzie's comment. He says, holy heck, NFL football tomorrow. Let's celebrate, folks. Proppy, are you going to be dialed into the Hall of Fame game, or just because there's helmets and pads? I'm just curious.
I will be tuning in. I also have a dynasty draft taking place tonight that Amags is participating in, as well as our esteemed producer Jake the Snake, and then some big heavy hitters in the SportsLine roster: Dave Richard, Eric Casillas, RJ White, Larry Hartstein. This is a first-year dynasty draft. Very excited. We're playing some high stakes. Hopefully, there'll be some articles. I think RJ mentioned potentially writing something up about the results of this big 23-round dynasty draft.
Absolutely. And Danny Brasco is in an auction draft. Is Danny Brasco in that one too? Because he's in the chat.
He is not in this. This is a snake dynasty draft.
Ouch, Danny Brasco left out. Let me tell you, just reminded me, speaking of NFL and just picks, before we bring up the recap screen, we have a network show tomorrow, I believe at 2 o'clock that I'll be hosting. So CBS Sports Network, you're going to want to dial in to that. All right, let's take a look at the recap screen before we get out of here. Very good to be back, especially because Martin Green gave me very easy names to pronounce. Let's start with mine, though. We've got a tournament matchup, not a round one matchup. Colin Morikawa, -130 over Ludwig Oberg. Martin Green, LA Galaxy money line at even money. Toluca money line, -110. Prop stars Brian Bayo over 15.5 outs at +110. Amags, Taj Bradley over 6.5 Ks at -114. A lot of people like the Rays in that one, run line and otherwise as well. Shohei Ohtani over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs at even money. That's the second of 2 for Amags. And the Sportsline pick, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. We've got Christoph Milak at the men's 200-meter butterfly final. He's at -105. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it was very good to be back, not just with the folks on the screen, but with all of you in the chat. Prop Bet King, Jeffrey Aguilar, Kevin McKenzie, Danny Brasco's in here, Big Cheesy, Brad Morris, Sox Nation, Jeff Sternberg. Jeff was, by the way, throwing shade at the Yankees again, Amags, in this chat. Hopefully you didn't see that. Brian Grevins, good way to close it here. He says, great show as always. Really great show. Really great participation from the chat. And a big thank you to Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s for keeping this engine and these wheels rolling. On behalf of Amags, on behalf of Martin Green, on behalf of Prop Stars, and on behalf of myself, the Counselor of Cash, this is the Early Edge, folks. We'll see you soon. We rest our case.